All right, thank you. This is the Conference Committee on H563. We're in Senate Judiciary. It's May 8th. And we are going to talk about some of the differences or try to figure out a middle ground for the knowingly standard and a provision that was taken out for somebody when they should have known that they did not have consent of an owner to take, obtain, or operate, or use, or continue to operate a motor vehicle of another. And that's located in Title 23 VSA Section 1094. So that's my little intro, and I'll hand it off to you, Representative Curtis.
Yeah, you know, I kind of want to start with is just a little history on where parts of this came from, and mainly the auto trespass part of this bill. I believe was introduced in 2019 or 2020, that biennium, and was introduced by Representative Hashim. And through COVID, it just kind of got lost in the shuffle at the end of the year because stuff was happening so fast. And of course, a few years went by, and this past year, I got a call from a friend down in Rutland who's a detective with the state police. And he was in northern Vermont investigating a murder, and his phone pinged at 3 o'clock in the morning, and somebody's in his car at his house. Of course, the car was unlocked, and somebody just got in. And of course, he called his friend to go get the guy, and turned out they couldn't do anything about it. And he was Henry Alberico. I don't know if you knew Henry or not, but he was quite taken back that there was no law as far as anybody breaking into a car or getting into a car. And that's how it kind of got resurrected is through that series of events. And Nader and I had talked about it a little bit and decided that I would start it in the House. And that's where the whole bill came from. It was actually a 3-part bill. At one time, there was a attempted auto theft piece in here that the Senate pulled out, which is, you know, which I don't have a big problem with. I just didn't see it stay, but there is other avenues as far as attempted grand larceny goes, so can be charged through the main statute. And yeah, and Martin had a piece in here, so it was a few of us that, you know, we had 3 different bills that kind of all came together. And we passed this back and forth from House to Senate a couple times, and trying to come to an agreement. And Nader and I have talked and possibly, hopefully have got some language that everybody can agree on.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that, you know, I think some of the main difference of opinion came with just the different levels of mens rea. I think on our side, we had some concern about the recklessness, which is, you know, step below knowingly. And then I do see that we had previously taken out language that I had discussed in the introduction for somebody when they should have known that they did not have the consent of the owner to operate their vehicle. So, I mean, I'm open to, you know, instead of having the recklessness standard, just putting in knowingly or this should have known standard back into it. And so then we would have the should have known in subsection 1 and then knowingly in subsection 2. So I'm looking at draft 3.1 from February 2nd, 2024.
Perhaps the same as the Senate proposal of amendment?
On the Senate proposal of amendment? 1 second.
So I think what y'all have, what I'd asked them to provide you is the House version, the Senate proposal of amendment. The House concur with further proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have any drafts.
Okay. Got it. So
sorry.
No, I was going to say that the language I was looking at came from, I believe we took it out, and I'm open to putting it back in if we can remove the recklessness piece. So I think this is to the House, draft 3.1, 563. I'll just read off the language, but So it's the person takes, obtains, operates, uses, or continues to operate the motor vehicle of another when the person should have known that the person did not have the consent of the owner to do so. And that is, as I'm reading it, that's like a step below subsection 2, which refers to when the person knows they did not have the consent of the owner to do so. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that work for you, Michelle?
Yes.
Well, actually, let me ask. Does that work
I
for
know
you
what you
too?
mean.
If I can clarify, so I found the language, so it is in the as passed by House version,
Yes.
page 4. So so could you share what the change was? Because you were saying,
Yeah.
let's add it back, but you're suggesting a
Add it
change,
back,
and I
yep.
think I missed what the change
Add it
was.
back. So there's recklessly, which is a lower standard underneath knowingly. And then you have knowingly above that, which is a higher standard. And so the proposal is to put back in this should have known standard.
Yep.
While removing the recklessly standard.
And where was the because I don't see the recklessly listed anywhere.
So what you have, so on the, let's say, so on the section on OOC, House passed it said with the addition of should have known, with a
Yes.
lesser penalty. Senate took that whole section out.
Yes.
House countered with, okay, Lynn should have known, how about recklessly? And now what the Senate is saying is say, well, if we have to choose between those two, we'll go back to your original House.
Okay,
Yeah.
I followed. I thought there was going to be another swap, but it's just going back to what was originally
What was
proposed.
originally proposed by the House. So right now, the counter that is, that came back to the Senate was House Judiciary said, instead of should have known, use reckless. And the proposal here from Senator Sheen is to use should have known.
I just want to confirm something. So should have known for in terms of mens rea, that would be higher than recklessly, right?
Should have known. It's kind of its own thing. I mean, I think of how you want to interpret it. I mean, I provided you with the jury instructions for recklessly, and we talked about that where you're kind of consciously disregarding a certain risk, which is a little bit, I mean, you can certainly apply that in this context, but it's a little bit of an awkward fit. I think the should have known does fit a little better because what you're saying is that if they, with knowingly, if they can't prove for whatever reason that the person had actual knowledge that they did not have permission to use the vehicle, then you would go right below that standard. So how it fits with recklessly.
Is it pretty much the same thing as recklessly then?
It is similar.
Yeah, okay. So that's an important clarification. Thank you.
But it's not knowingly.
Right.
And
But it's also not recklessly. Well, it is pretty much. Okay, so
it's an intermediate step between negligence and knowing.
Yes, and I'm remembering when we were taking tests, I think that's why we landed with that is because it was in kind of the middle ground, but it's also feeling like it's not ideal that it is kind of this gray area, but feeling like that's what we're trying to get at, so.
all right, so do you have thoughts for the should have known section, or for the should have known violation, rather than having jail time for that,
Where's
for A1?
3 points?
So considering it's a sort of middle ground between recklessly and knowingly, I mean, my first thought is to
Is that the 90 days?
3 months.
Yeah, the 3 months.
So it's criminal.
Right,
$500. Is there any openness to making that a civil penalty for the should have known, since it's similar to reckless?
I mean, I'd like to talk about 30 days, possibly, and you go from there.
Okay. Well, how about then just $500, no jail time for the should have known? Or if you want to think on it,
For
for the should have known.
this?
Yes.
just so you know, for context, because we're just working in subsection A, not in the, like, you steal it and then bring them back, but for the joyride in subsection A, the current penalties, if meeting the knowing standard is 2 years and $1,000 fine. So you're.
For the knowing
For the knowing standard, so if you're creating, you know, a lesser offense, lesser with regard to the mental element, just giving you context of.
2 years.
It would, well, so because for me, it is a lesser, lesser than knowingly, yes, thank you. I would certainly support, that being civil, and then the other aspect aligning. Yeah,
Go to the no jail time, you mean?
yes, that would certainly be what I would support, given that we have a lower mens rea than knowingly.
So let me get this straight. Someone steals my $50,000 truck and goes for a joyride. We've lowered the standards and now we got no jail time. It's a civil offense. I steal as we've heard it here before, I steal a candy bar or a soda in a store. It's a criminal offense.
It's not so much,
It's too soft. It's too soft.
we're just spitballing different options here. So,
I haven't heard any good ones yet, though.
okay, well, do you have any good ideas that you'd like to share?
I thought we were gonna leave the knowingly in from our conversation.
The knowingly is in,
It should have known.
should have known is in.
Okay, but the knowingly standard, Michelle, is similar to the should have known?
No, so right now what you have in statute is knowing, and that's staying. There's no proposal to change that. That's staying and that's a 2-year misdemeanor. So typically when we're talking about criminal law, we use like intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, sometimes negligently, but generally not. Should have known is more often used in a civil context. But it does appear in some criminal laws, just as not with the same frequency as recklessly. So recklessly is a lot more kind of built up in terms of, you know, its interpretation through criminal law, and you have the jury instructions there about what recklessly means. So should have known is really just what it sounds like, right? So it's like that if, you know, if I just decide to go borrow my neighbor's car because it's sitting in the driveway and the keys are in it, but I've never discussed with them, you know, can I borrow your car or anything like that, I, you know, should have known that I didn't have the consent of my neighbor to use their car. Did I know that for a fact? I might have thought, you know, I kind of disregarded the fact that maybe they would say, well, I'm not really comfortable with, you know, I'm not really comfortable with you driving my car.
The other scenario that I'm thinking of is, you know, you're borrowing somebody's car. They say, bring my car back soon or bring my car back in an hour. The person borrowing it says, yeah, sure, but they bring it back 4 or 5 hours later. I mean, I feel like that would fall under the lower standard, not the knowingly standard, but, you know, a step below. And in that circumstance, yeah, I don't know that jail time is necessarily the.
And it could under that, because you'll see that it's the person takes, obtains, operates, uses, or continues to operate the motor vehicle. So, you know, whether or not somebody would want to take a case because it returned it a few hours late, you know, it might be more like it, you know, but I think I understand the scenario that you're laying out there.
Yeah, because I think there is that difference, because we're keeping the A2 for that. If you know that you're not supposed to, then you get up to 2 years. And so like, I feel like that is different because of that joyride example, like the person likely knew they were not allowed to take it. So there would be a penalty for them to face. If this is in that more kind of gray area situation. So I just feel like because there's those two pieces, I can see having something lesser for that other standard, because it is holding somebody accountable. If they knowingly took somebody's car and just went off with it.
That still
It gives
maintains
yeah.
the same penalty
Right.
this is sort of like
Right.
lowering, if we can't prove that they did know.
Yeah.
We can still give them a fine. This is my proposal. We can't prove that they did know. We can still give them a fine if we assess that they probably should have known. But it just doesn't feel like it should rise to the level of jail time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And so am I correct in assuming or understanding that is a pretty narrow set of facts that would really lead a prosecutor or one down this particular path, should have known?
Somebody should have known. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it can be, I think it can be pretty broad. I mean, if you should have known, you know, how do you prove that? You know,
But
like if
why,
you get
I guess I'm trying to think through why you would go for should have known. In the situation that you're describing, Senator Norton, someone just takes your car, you don't know them, they don't know you, they know that it's not their car, they may not even know it's your car, they just take a car.
They know it's not their car.
They know it's not their car.
Okay.
I'm trying to think through if a prosecutor would go for should have known in that case, because they might not be able to prove that they didn't know.
or you mean that they did know that it wasn't their car?
That they did know.
Yeah.
Can they prove, if they can't prove knowingly, do they go for should have known? And does then does that person?
I mean, I think it would depend on the facts and the context, you know, if it's a situation where, you know, every now and again, a neighbor borrows his neighbor's car, and then one day the neighbor is in a bad mood and doesn't want to let him borrow it, but he borrows it anyway. That could be a should have known.
Right.
Or if you get a phone call saying, hey, bring my car back in an hour, but you bring it back 3 hours later, that could be a should have known. You just go down to a random person's house you've never met before, you steal their car. I feel like the facts would point to, you know that's not your car.
Right. That's, I guess, and that's what I'm
Then
trying
you're
to
into the
get
grand
to.
larceny.
Yeah, and so I'm not worried that folks who clearly didn't know, or, sorry,
Did know.
did know. I don't know why that particular part is tripping me up. Folks who clearly know it's not their car, they don't have any consent to operate that car. I don't see them getting swept up in should have known. So I would agree that a lesser penalty is appropriate.
Okay.
What that penalty is exactly is open to discussion.
So the house, did you notice what the house had in their first proposal? Because it, did they put it back in there? Oh, they did, I'm sorry.
As passed by the House?
Yeah, but they also put it in their counter, so it's 3 months, $500.
All right, so just to get to the point, about no 3 months and $500. Would that work for the should have known? So
3 months
A1.
and 500.
Right, so
Yeah, you know
striking
what?
the 3 months.
I would rather not, but for the sake of compromise, you readily gave me what I asked for. I'm willing to do it. I think this bill now, I don't think anybody in here totally hates it or totally loves it, which a lot of times isn't a bad place to be.
Isn't that the sign of good
Well,
compromise?
that's exactly what I'm saying. So yeah.
What about if it's more than one offense, what about just damage to the motor vehicle, extensive damage to the motor vehicle? That's still.
That's in statute already. I don't think it's written out in what we have, but I know there's part of it that,
You should have,
Oh, you have it?
Ben made a copy of the
Yeah.
existing law for OC, so you can see the whole statute, since it's not reproduced in your language here.
yeah, so the
B is the one where it has the higher, penalties there.
$500 in damage or more, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, well, you're reading it, so I don't have to.
Does it have anything about more than one offense, Michelle?
I feel like that would move to knowingly, like if you did
Right.
it again.
Yeah.
Yes, then you knew.
Yeah, then you're getting into grand larceny.
Well, anything under B is grand larceny.
I don't mind compromise. I just want to give anybody a free pass, okay?
What's that?
So I don't mind a compromise. I just want to give anybody a free pass.
Right. And I don't think it really does. I mean, it gives somebody like half a free pass, I guess, on
I mean,
It's not free, it's
it's still a,
$500.
Well, that's true.
still a criminal
There you go.
charge,
Yeah.
still,
Honestly,
still,
would probably be imposed more often than the jail time.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
And the fee, and the
Restitution will
subsection
pay for
B,
it.
Bob,
You guys can't afford to pay for it, and we'll come a long ways here. Yeah,
Bob, the
Michelle,
fee
sorry.
is that's 5-year felony. And you can charge under OOC and grand larceny, which is a 10-year felony at the same time. So I'm saying you can have both of those charges. Having an OOC doesn't exclude you from a grand larceny charge.
I'm more than willing to compromise myself, folks. I just don't, I hate the OOC statute. I don't know what that means. Operating without owner's consent. Does that mean you stole it? I mean, I just don't, you know, it's a bad statute. It's a bad heading.
Right.
Okay, you either stole or you didn't. The only place it could come into play, what I'm thinking about, is if I tell Tom Burdette, he can borrow my car and use it for a week, and at the end of the week, you don't bring it back. Hey, Tom, bring my car back, okay? Now, you're knowingly depriving me of ownership from that car, so you're operating without my consent at that point in time. But for someone to just come up and just jumps in the car and takes it with the keys in it or whatever else, that's not OOC, that's theft. I mean, that's, in my mind, that's theft. It's just me talking here, so. And we sit around the table saying it's all fine, because it's never happened to us. Well, the minute it happens to one of us, then we're gonna say, well, let's throw the book at him here, you know? But that's what happens all the time.
I would not say that.
I'd want to find out why they felt the need to get in my
What was
car,
going on in their
what's going
life,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, depending on the situation and the evidence.
I've had my car broken into, and the first thing I thought was I really feel for that person, that they needed to rifle through my car for the change in my car, that they're struggling that much in their life. No interest in having
It
to see
still
jail
feels a
time.
violation.
Yes.
so
Doesn't feel good.
I think, so I just want to make sure I run this by you guys and Michelle for any changes to the language. We're removing that recklessly disregards. We're keeping the should have known, but taking out the 3-month jail time.
So what your
Okay.
committee of conference will look like is going to be the Senate proposal of amendment, you know, essentially. Was the unlawful trespass, right, that you guys agreed to.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's gonna be the OOC, which should have known, $500 penalty for that. Right?
Yes.
Everybody good? So it's gonna have those 2 sections.
And we sign off on that too, so like we'll see it before it
Yes,
is.
I'm just trying to get
Official.
because I'm gonna go write it
Yes.
up and send it to Ben.
And you said you're taking out the recklessly disregards piece?
Because it's being replaced by should have
Right,
known.
okay. Okay. Go team.